Hello everyone, I'm Joe Ackourey, and welcome to the Fly of the Week. For this episode, episode 15, I'll be tying the Sulphur Dun Compara Dun. So let's get started. Okay, let's get started. The Sulphur Compara Dun Dry Fly. Place your hook in the vise, making sure that your shank of the hook is parallel with your tabletop. And now the first step to this fly is determining where the wing is going to be set. So I like to use my thread as my indicator. So I start by wrapping right up against the eye of the hook and wrapping back to the center of the shank of the hook. Just like that. Clip off your excess and now wrap back up half of that. Guys, that's where the wing is going to be set. Now, the wing material for this fly is a medium to light Compara Dun deer hair, just like this. I sell this on my website. You'll find it in 3 shades, light, medium, and dark. It's an awesome piece of deer hair, very fine, and does the job nicely. So I'm going to take a bunch of that, little tuft of that. I'm going to estimate about like a gap's worth, 3/4 of a gap's worth. That should be enough. And then I have to comb out the fuzz that's in between the hackle fiber or the deer hair. You can see as I draw it out with my scissors. Incidentally, I like to open up my scissors about a 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch and push into the clump of deer hair and comb it out with my finger. I kind of just barely touch my finger with the scissors, and you can see how good of a job it does. I comb it out perfectly. All that fuzz gets out of there. You want that fuzz out of there because all it's going to do is absorb water and sink your fly a little bit quicker. And you know, this is a dry fly, so we want it to float like a cork. So get rid of that fuzz. Now, these are the natural ends of the deer hair. These are the cut ends. Place the natural ends inside your hair stacker and stack your wing. Let's see what we got here, guys. Carefully open up your stacker. Oh, nice. Very nice. 1 or 2. There we go. Now, take out your deer hair from your stacker. We're going to measure our wing length now. The wing length is going to equal the length of the shank of the hook, including the eye. So, I got a couple long ones there. There we go. Measure it up. Place it in that sweet spot that we found earlier. Here's the technique I wanted to show you guys. You want to wrap 8 to 10 wraps around the shank of the hook. Okay, in that sweet spot. We already measured our wing length. We said that it was the length of the shank, including the eye. And now, take those 8 or 10 wraps off. By doing that, we placed a kink in the wing. We compressed the deer hair. That's a good thing. So watch this carefully. So when I make my very first half a wrap, actually, look how deep that thread is going on the around the wing. You want that to get as close to the shank as possible. That's why we crease the wing. Now, my method goes as follows. I'm going to take that off and I'm going to spin this wing all the way around 360 degrees around the shank of the hook and lock it in with a couple wraps. And there you go. You could see how nice, and that wing just literally is 360 degrees around the shank of the hook. So you're probably saying, well, big deal. It's 360 degrees around the shank of the hook. What's that going to do? Well, I'll tell you what that's going to do. Traditional Compara Dun wing is tied on top of the shank of the hook. So when you go to clip off all this excess, you're left with a big bump. And that's okay for sizes 10s, 12s, and 14s, and even possibly 16s. But when you get down to 18s and 20s, forget it. You got that big, ugly bump behind the wing, and you try to build an even body around it, it looks terrible. So with my method, I spin the deer hair around the shank of the hook, and effectively I'm spinning the bump around the hook and distributing that bump 360 degrees around the shank of the hook, thus eliminating the bump, which I'll show you in a couple seconds. It's a great method, and it opens up the doors for 18s, 20s, 22s, and even size 24s, believe it or not. Yep, Compara Duns on size 24s, guys. So let me get started with this now. Remove all this excess. Don't cut your thread. You want to cut the excess off on an angle, nice sharp angle. You know, you're going to have a couple here and there still in the wing. We'll get as much as we can get out of there. Get that group out of there on the bottom. Now, wrap through the cut ends. And you're left with a nice taper, no bump. How about that? A couple pieces laying around yet. Couple. We can get them later. But I think you guys saw firsthand how nice that is. Look at that. No bump. The bump is distributed all the way around. Okay. Now, let's pick up our wing and dam up some thread in front. And that'll help stand the wing up. Give it a little tug, as you can see. Now I'm going to fan that wing out 180 degrees, and look how nice that wing is. Great Compara Dun wing. Great technique. And your wing is finished. Okay, now let's get the tail going. Get your thread all the way to the back of the shank of the hook and get ready to pull your tail. So now I selected a hackle that has quite long hackle fibers. That's the key. You want long hackle fibers. That's what's going to make your tail. So we grab our hackle and we gently draw down the hackle fibers until they're perpendicular to the stem, like so. Now take notice that the hackle fibers are all lined up nice and neat. That's what you want. You want to use the tips of your fingers, and you want to grab at least a ½ inch worth of fibers and pull the hackle away. Gently tap the ends that were pulled off, and there's your tail, guys. So initially we measured for the wing that was equal to the shank of the hook, including the eye. We're going to do the same for the tail. Shank of the hook, include the eye. There's your tail. And again, the material that I used for the tail was medium dun hackle fibers. And if you noticed, when I fastened the tail, I didn't just cut off the excess. I joined it with the excess wing material. And now look at that body. Well, it's not really done yet, the body, but it's got a nice taper built in already. And again, there's no bump. That bump is gone. The method that I developed is just, it's like magic, especially when you get down to the smaller sizes. All right, so we got a tail and a wing that are proportioned to the hook. And now I'm going to pull up the tail. I like to wrap a couple of wraps under the tail to fan it out. Like that, like so. And lock it in. Just a couple of wraps will lock it in. All right, now for the body. I make all my own fur blends. You can find them on my website. Right now we have our Sulphur Dun blend. And I'm going to draw out some fur blend here. And I'm going to attach it to the thread. I'm going to dub a nice noodle. You can see how easy this goes on. A little bit of saliva. No wax needed, guys. And my blends will dub down to a 28 with no problem. Size 28 hook, no problem. Very easy to dub. Okay, slide that into position. Pick your tails up. Kick a wrap underneath the tails. And start building your body. Overlap each wrap slightly, and it'll help form your tapered body. The more you overlap, the fatter it'll get. Okay, I'm going to need a little bit more. There we go. Just a little, just for the front. Maybe one more wrap in the back. Dab that on. Goes on pretty much effortless. Forms a beautiful noodle. Slide that up. Pull your wing back. Pull your wing forward. Get a sneaker wrap in there. Maybe one or two more in the front. One, maybe three more. Four more. Okay. Tie your foundation for your, wrap your foundation for your knot. Tie your finishing knot. Oops. Start that one over. Okay. Now, clean up any stray fibers on the body, any deer hair on the wing that's not cooperating with the rest of the group, get rid of. That's a good looking Compara Dun, guys. Sulphur Compara Dun. A little bit of head cement on the knot. Okay. Straighten that wing out a little bit more. And tail. That looks pretty darn good to me. There you have it, guys. Sulphur Compara Dun. Thank you for joining me in this episode, and I'll see you in the next. Tight lines, everyone.